This is Nurse of Death, the Lucy Letby story, a gripping true crime podcast that takes you deep into the chilling tale of allegations against Lucy Letby, a seemingly caring and dedicated nurse who harbored a dark secret. Join us as we unravel the twisted journey of a medical professional whose actions sent shockwaves throughout the healthcare community. It's the story of a nurse who went from saving lives to becoming the harbinger of death. This is Nurse of Death, the Lucy Letby story.
It is, as we continue to cover the ongoing trial week by week for you here on the podcast, and more daily as it happens. Tony and Stacey Cole with you on today's episode. And yeah, it gets darker. I mean, it's amazing how many times this case seems to almost recycle itself with, and then she did this and that again, and again, and again, and again. And then eventually the trend was witnessed. What have you been seeing this last week when you've been looking at the case?
Well, and like you said, it seems to be recycling itself. I think a lot of the overwhelming thing that I've noticed is the use of air to kill a child, allegedly. That they are really finding out that her method of madness was to inject air into these baby systems, whether it was into their veins, into their stomach, something that could be undetected just from the outside, that we have no idea what's going on. But once they started, taking an x-ray of these children and seeing just humongous amounts of air in their stomachs, it starts to make sense. Like, how the hell did all of this air get in here? I think that the evidence is overwhelming that some human is causing this to happen. There's just no way that this is all happening coincidentally.
No, I mean, clearly not. And I know the arguments, well, a lot of kids die in these units. Yeah, that does happen. Yeah. But the common denominator here, and in a place it hasn't had also that sort of a track record, was her. When she was removed, it kind of stopped happening. When she was there, it increased.
Yeah.
And that cannot be denied. Is this a woman with absolutely horrible luck? I don't think so, but that's why she's on trial right now, and they're trying to figure out the details of it. Let's go to some of the reporting on this and hear what's been going on in the last week or so.
During the murder trial of Nurse Lucy Letby, the court heard that a premature baby boy suffered a devastating internal injury that contributed to his death. Ans Letby is charged with killing the boy, referred to as Child O, in June 2016 upon her return from a week's holiday in Ibiza. The nurse is accused of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 10 others at the Countess of Chester Hospital between 2015 and 2016, which she denies. According to earlier evidence presented at the Manchester Crown Court, Child O was in good condition and stable until the afternoon of 23 June, when he suffered a remarkable deterioration and died. Child O was one of triplets, and his brother, referred to as Child P, died a little over 24 hours later after also being allegedly attacked by Ans Letby. Dar Andres Monorides, an expert in neonatal pathology, testified in court that Child O's death was a result of an inflicted traumatic injury to the liver and the injection of air into the boy's bloodstream via a nasogastric tube. To help the jury understand his findings in relation to Child O, Dr. Monorides presented photographs of the baby boy's liver, taken during the post-mortem examination to the court. The pictures revealed a rather large bruise on the boy's liver that would have caused an internal bleed, according to Dar Monorides. He said that the most likely cause of the bruising would be an impact type of injury. However, he added, "It doesn't tell us if it is accidental or not accidental, but tells us it is impact." Dar Monorides dismissed CPR as a possible cause of the bruise, saying, "I cannot convince myself that in the setting of a neonatal care unit, CPR would be a reasonable proposition to explain this. I don't think CPR can produce this extensive injury to a liver."
That's what would, I guess, is the question. I mean,
you shouldn't. Okay, I can understand possibly thinking that CPR could, because you're near you're near the liver. You shouldn't be on the liver if you're doing your CPR correctly. But that's not where the impact is going to be shown. You're going to see it in the lung tissue. You're going to see possibly broken rib bones. You shouldn't be seeing it on the liver.
So then how did it get there, I guess, is the question. I mean, would that be like striking or pushing or pressure in that area, without doing CPR, like just some sort of nefarious act? I don't know, dropping the baby? I mean, I think all these things, wouldn't they be caught? Or, I guess there's times when you're alone in the unit and the only other people are going to tell on you are the other NICU babies, and they're not going to tell.
No, and I think we talked about last time that they had talked about putting in closed circuit television. There again, if they had had some sort of measure like that in place, they would have seen, was she punching the babies? I mean, my God, my heart just drops to even think like that. But where were these bruises coming from internally?
Oh, I think that's one of the bigger questions. Let's continue on.
Dr. Monorides stated that the injury suffered by the premature baby boy was severe and consistent with that of a road traffic accident.
Wow.
He further added, "I have also seen it in babies in the context of cases where they have suffered non-accidental types of injury." When asked if child O would have shown distress as a result of the injury, the medic replied that it's very common that you see nothing from the outside, especially in a baby. You can have the most devastating injury internally, and yet nothing is visible from the outside. Dr. Monorides was requested by Cheshire Police to review the case in 2017. He said that several babies likely died at the Countess of Chester Hospital because air was injected into their bloodstream. The medic added that upon examining tissue samples from child A, who was allegedly murdered by Nurse Letby in June 2015 via air injection, he discovered globules in the lungs and brain tissue that were probably air. He stated, "I cannot be 100% sure, but most likely this air went there while this baby was still alive."
Wow.
Yeah.
So what does that take us to? Does that just take us to blatant physical abuse beyond her injecting things, allegedly?
Possibly. And I just looked up the National Institutes of Health. They do have a study. It says during CPR, many complications may occur because of chest compressions, especially chest injuries, including the sternum and rib fractures, which I mentioned. It does say rarely tracheal injury, rupture of the stomach, or liver or spleen injury may occur as complications. Does that somehow exonerate her that maybe this was indeed from CPR or something else?
Well, why would there be no record of the baby having CPR?
Oh, you bring up a good point.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering about. There are plenty of things on record here where it does talk about her or others administering CPR to babies. But those are the ones that are on record. I'm wondering, were there more occasions where these sort of things took place and were never recorded because nobody knew that they were actually happening? Was Lucy in some cases, and this would kind of fit into the personality, if you will, or the motive and such, was she also trying to look like a savior? Was she trying to hurt the babies and then be the one that brings them back to life or nurses them back to life and helps them, and then she's looked at as this wonderful person while she's killing them at the same time? I don't know. I think that there have been doctors that have done that where not so successfully either. There's just so many questions as to what this person was capable of, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of walls that she ran into for quite some time. Let's continue.
Dr. Monorides stated that he found no evidence that a natural disease will explain his death, and determined that the cause of death was explicable on the basis of air embolism. The neonatal pathology expert offered a similar explanation for the death of child C in June 2015. The prosecution claimed that Nurse Letby murdered the 5-day-old baby by injecting air into his stomach through a nose tube, which made him unable to breathe. Dr. Monorides found no evidence of infection in the pathology and ruled out other possible causes of death. He stated that the explanation for sudden collapse was excess injection of air into the nasogastric tube. Similarly, in the case of the deaths of Child D and Child I in 2015, Dr. Monaride said the likely explanation was the injection of air.
So a lot of air being injected into these children and for getting away with it for ridiculous amounts of time.
Yeah, and undetectable unless you start digging in, unless you do an x-ray post-mortem, or you actually open up the child and see what's going on. This is a pretty interesting way to go about doing some criminal activity without being detected.
I guess the question is, how does, in other cases, you can look and go, oh, I get how this person got this strategy, or a lot of, serial killers and things of that nature. It's because they've seen someone else do it. They have those same desires, but there's already a blueprint out there. There's already been a Bundy. There's already been a this. There's already been a that. And with killers now, a lot of times you can see where they got their inspiration from in some ways. With her, has there been doctors who've done these sort of things? I think so. I don't know if there's been one quite like this, though. She almost seems to have created her own genre, if you will.
Yeah, this one's a big one. We've heard of doctors and nurses that kill, but not to this extent. And for this period of time, there's clusters where it's like 3 of them, and then they're caught and removed from being able to harm others. This one is extremely extreme. To use my words over again, this is a lot.
It's extremely extreme. I like that better, actually.
Yeah, it really is.
That seems to be a better one too to go off. I love it.
Right?
Extremely extreme. It's like
it just is.
It's the bestest, if you will, in a very sick, horrible way.
Exactly.
No, it is. I mean, it is. It is just baffling. The trial continues to go on, and we'll continue to keep you updated right here as it progresses with the nurse of death, Lucy Letby.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brewski.
If you want to weigh in on any of the cases that we are following for you, we got a phone number for that. It's 888-5-KILLER, 888-554-5537. We'd love to hear your voice. Press subscribe wherever you download podcasts. You don't miss any of our breaking updates and discussions on the cases. You want an ad-free experience that's available to you through Apple Podcasts right now. Go to our premium channel, subscribe there, and get access to all of our podcast channels commercial-free every single day. For Stacy, I'm Tony. Stay with us.